Plymouth Argyle are struggling. The club currently find themselves sitting rock bottom of the championship table, and whilst they have sacked their manager Wayne Rooney and appointed a new one, relegation still looks very likely. But I'm going to try and change that. With 5 years as Plymouth manager, I want to not only keep the club up in the championship, but take them to the Premier League, because Plymouth are the biggest city in England to never have a club in the top division of English football. But this isn't going to be an easy job, because it's not like Plymouth are underperforming this year. In fact, the game predicts them to finish 23rd, with facilities that really aren't good enough for a championship team and finances to match. And even though they were founded over 100 years ago, it's not like they've got loads of trophies in the cabinet to build from. And being totally honest, the squad isn't really looking too strong either, but thankfully, there are a few good talents that we can maybe build this team around. Undoubtedly, the star man and key player of this team is going to be Morgan Whittaker, whilst 23-year-old centre-back Lewis Gibson also looks pretty handy, and versatile midfielder Bali Mumba also looks to be a good talent for this level. But if I'm being totally honest, that's about as far as this team's talent goes, though there are some good young players coming through the ranks. Welsh 17-year-old Freddie Isaka is one of those, as is 18-year-old midfield prospect Caleb Roberts. But even there, if I'm being totally honest, I'm clutching at straws a little bit in terms of players that could actually help us survive in the championship and push on further, and it's not like I've got the budget to change things either, because heading into this first season with the club, I only have £50,000 to spend, £1,000 a wage budget, which is nothing for a championship team, and we're certainly going to need some additions, because looking at it, we are favourites to go down, we are predicted relegation, and that is not a good start to a rebuild where I eventually want to push this team on into the top half of the Premier League table. But if we're going to do any of that, we need to survive this season, so I'm going to try and wrangle that transfer budget around, make some signings here and there, and try and improve this team in any way I can. I'm being totally honest with you, this transfer window with Plymouth was probably the most challenging transfer window I've ever had really in a rebuild, because the money just wasn't there for us to do anything with. Thinking about the future though, I was able to loan some players out for their development. Firstly, Caleb Roberts goes to Halifax Town, and Freddie Isaka will be playing his football this season at Rochdale. But I'm not joking when I say that was the only outgoings we were able to do. No one was interested in any of our players, bar Morgan Whittaker, who I didn't want to sell, so in the end, I really had to focus on loan deals to try and improve his team. And I started off with a player who is not going to set the world alight. He is cover for centre-back and left-back Ewan Otto, a 21-year-old Scotsman who we have picked up on loan from Dunfermline Athletic, who are in the second tier of Scottish football, and that just goes to show you, he wasn't considered good enough for there, but he is considered good enough for our squad. I did manage to bolster our midfield a little bit with the signing of Alex Matos, a 19-year-old Englishman from Chelsea, who isn't exactly amazing quality right now, but could be in a few years' time, so I'm kind of trying to convince him if he plays a season here, maybe he'll want to sign permanently. Speaking of Chelsea loanees, I'm also about to secure the signature of Amari Kellyman for the season, but looking at him, he's not exactly, again, someone that's going to come straight into the first team and do well. He's another one for the future, but he was available on a very cheap loan, so he's on his way. And being honest with you, I think those incomings probably won't even get into our best 11 on the pitch, so I don't think they're going to have that much of an impact, but the final signing I made, I'm hoping will, because we've brought in the 18-year-old Swede Lucas Bergvall from Tottenham for the season. Now, of course, in real life, he has made it as part of Tottenham's first team, but in this FM world, he wasn't ready for that yet, so Tottenham were willing to loan him out, so we've managed to be the benefiters of that. A good player who, again, isn't exactly going to be our best, but has the potential to be really key for us this year if he can grow a little bit. And with the budgets we had, that was all we were able to do. Now, of course, in future seasons, we'll be able to really overhaul this squad. We'll have more budget to work with, but for now, in Season 1, we just need to survive, and this is the team that we're hoping will be able to do it. According to the game, our best 11 has Daniel Grimshaw in goal, a 26-year-old Englishman, with our best right-back being 33-year-old Joe Edwards. We then see a centre-back partnership of Lewis Gibson, who you've met, and then Julio Pleguezielio. I don't know if I pronounced that right at all, but he's a Spanish 27-year-old defender, doesn't look half bad. At left-back, we've got former Everton man and Zimbabwe international Brendan Galloway, with a midfield that includes Victor Paulsen, an Icelandic international, and Jordan Houghton, a 28-year-old Englishman. Then going forward is where it gets a little bit better with Mumba, who you've met, even though he's supposedly a good fullback too, Morgan Whittaker, and then the attacking midfielder in our team is going to be Callum Wright, apparently. Lucas Bergvall might have something to say about that over the course of a season. And our best striker currently is Mohamed Tijani, on loan from Slavia Prague. He is not here permanently, but to be honest, for the Championship, that's not half a bad striker in Football Manager, and hopefully he'll be able to do a job in keeping us up. But this is what is now considered our best 11, and even though we did make a few loan signings here to try and help the team, the game still thinks we're going down. We're still predicted to be in a relegation position, so it really isn't looking very promising for us this season. But as I said, all we need to do is survive in Season 1, and then we can really get stuck in and overhaul this squad. So fingers crossed, these players are able to secure safety. Okay, our first season here at Plymouth was certainly not easy, and there were some really poor results along the way. One of the worst was when we lost 3-0 to fellow relegation candidate Derby, and speaking of relegation candidates, we also lost 4-1 to Oxford. It wasn't just the teams lower down in the table beating us though, as Burnley, one of the contenders for the title, managed to put 4 past us at our own stadium. So as you can tell, we had some really poor moments this season, but there were some good matches too. One of the highlights was when we played Leeds at our own stadium and Morgan Whittaker assisted Tijani for a winner, but that wasn't our only good result against Leeds, because away at Ellen Road we managed to beat them 4-1. So clearly we were capable of some big wins and capable of some very big losses, but in the course of the season it all kind of evened itself out, and we ended up finishing in a very respectable 13th place position. 17 wins, 17 losses, -2 goal difference, and 63 points, 20 clear of relegated QPR. But when I say it was a mixed season, it really was. It wasn't like we went on a good run and then we started losing. If you actually have a look at our schedule, you can kind of see the results were just a bit hit and miss. Sometimes we were winning, sometimes we were losing. There was nothing really to go off in terms of, oh yeah, this was a really good run of form, we can build on from this. That never really happened. But I think we're going to face big issues in Season 2, because when you actually have a look at the reason that we did okay, it was goals from loanees like Mohamed Tijani, who was our best goal scorer by a mile with 24, and there's no way the Slavia Prague player wants to sign for us permanently. We also saw Lucas Bergvall do pretty well for us, the only one of our signings that really contributed to our performance this season. Granted, it was great to see Mumba and Morgan Whittaker doing well for us. 17 goals between the two of those was vital in our performances this year. But other than that, I mean, Obafemi scores 4, he's in on loan. Sissoko scores 5, he's in on loan. It really is one of them where I just feel like we're going to have to build from the ground up. This doesn't really mean anything to us other than knowing that Whittaker and Mumba are pretty good. I think now we really need to focus on the transfer window. We'll have a totally different squad, I imagine, in the following season. But with only £1 million to spend and £9 a wage budget, there's not exactly loads of money there to make that transition happen. But I'm going to do what I can. Maybe some free signings, maybe some loans to give us the best chance of staying up again in the Championship. Okay, the second transfer window with Plymouth wasn't as difficult as the first one. In fact, with the budgets that I had, I was actually able to make quite a few signings that I think really improve our team and give us a good chance this year of maybe securing mid-table again. But before we get into that, if you are enjoying this video, or if you just want to be nice, make sure you smash that like button for me. If we can get 750 likes, that would be amazing. When you hit the like button, it helps push the videos out here on YouTube, which obviously helps support me. So thank you for that, and make sure you're subscribed as well if you haven't already. Weekly rebuilds like this as we aim for 50k subscribers with FM25 on the horizon sometime soon too. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. So thank you to anyone who does that. But let's get firstly into the sales that we made this year. The centre-back that we mentioned last season as one of our best, Julio Pleguezelio, has left to go and join Sparta Rotterdam at the end of his contract for free. He actually played a lot of football for us last year, so it's a loss to lose him, but of course I don't have to say that name anymore, so that's at least one positive. Jordan Houghton also leaves the club, again someone that was considered part of our best 11 in our first year here. He's gone to Stockport County in the Championship for free at the end of his deal, so clearly he thinks they're better than us. I then sold on one of the really low-level squad depth players we had, Cornel Stjux, who only had a year left on his deal. I wasn't going to use him, so I thought let's just sell him and get a little bit of cash in. And then one of our striking options has departed. Ryan Hardy, the Scottish 28-year-old, has been at Plymouth for a number of years and scored a lot of goals for them over those years, but for us last season, he only started 2 games, so I thought thought, you know what, it's probably best to move him on. So he goes to St Johnstone in the Scottish Premiership for around 400k. I've also organised another loan from Caleb Roberts, who did pretty well last season when he left the club for Halifax Town, so now he goes to Chesterfield in League 2. And Will Jenkins-Davis also goes out on loan to Crewe. He's a youngster at the club that has a lot of promise, and hopefully he can reach that. So they were the sales that we made, nothing crazy, but we raised some funds to bring in some players where, like I say, I think we did a very good job when it comes to incomings. But before you see them, just to let you know, I do have a Patreon linked in the description down below, where over there, yes, you can support me as a creator, but there's plenty in return for you guys as well. You get early access watching of these videos, you get to vote for what rebuilds you want to see next as well. Every rebuild we do is based on a poll, and of course the thing that you guys seem to love, the rebuild files. So for every rebuild that we do, the save files from season 1 all the way through to 5 get uploaded to that Patreon, so you can download it and continue these saves either after we finished or jump in halfway through and try and do a better job than I did. It's always great to hear what you guys are doing in these saves, so thank you to anybody who checks out the Patreon. It's been growing quite nicely at the minute recently, so a big thanks to all of you guys. It massively helps support me. But now let's get back to those signings that we made. Now there's been quite a lot of free transfers, so I might run through these quite quickly. Tibor Halilovic is the first one who we have signed. He's a 30-year-old Croatian who comes in for 8 grand a week from Dinamo Zagreb. Endre Botka is a 30-year-old Hungarian fullback slash centre-back option who we have signed from Ferencváros, one of the best sides in Hungary. One of my favourite signings of this window is former Chelsea man Jonathan Panzo, who came through at Cobham but has moved to Monaco, played around in France for a little bit, Forest, Coventry. He's been all over the place, but now he's a Plymouth Argyle player, aged 24. The Ivorian is a great centre-back. Speaking of Chelsea, we picked up one of their free agents, signing 20-year-old Brody Hughes as cover at right-back. And their young goalkeeper Max Merritt comes in to be our third choice option, but mainly just someone that we might be able to sell on in the future. Zach Sturge is another Chelsea player that was let go that we were able to get in on a permanent deal. He's been at the club for a while, also Brighton. He's not done anything of note in his career yet, but with decent potential, hopefully he can grow into something nice for us. But a signing that I think is a real coup for us is Louis Barry, who, if I'm not mistaken, I think is doing pretty well in real life on loan from Aston Villa. In this world though, after a good loan at Stockport in League 1, he was let go by Villa on a free contract, and we have picked him up as a great option who can play left and right wing. I also loaned in 2 players. It was another player from Chelsea. We really were scouting their academy players to see what we could get, and I've brought in Mark Guiu, who has scored quite a lot of goals for Chelsea in the Conference League in real life, but in this FM world, played twice for them in the Premier League, didn't do great, so now we've loaned him in for the season, and as you can see, he scored in his first game for us, and age 19, he's going to be great cover up front, because the man that I think will actually lead the line is our other loanee for this year, 21-year-old Spaniard Mateo Joseph, who signs from Leeds United on a loan deal for the year. We're not paying a crazy amount for him either, and he and Guiu, I think, will be great options up front for the course of this season. But the final signing we made was one that actually cost money. I know, I actually spent something 500k on Ronald, the 24-year-old Brazilian right-winger, left-wing option we have signed from Swansea on the transfer list for 500k. He's been playing in Brazil and Portugal, signed for Swansea, didn't play at all, but our scouts rated him, and he comes in as one of our best players. So as you can tell, we've done a lot of work in improving the depth of this squad, and other than the striking position, we are now a lot less reliant on loanee players, which is of course a great thing, because now we have players that we own and we can sell if they do well. But this is what is now considered our best 11, already looking very different from what we inherited. Grimshaw is still the best goalkeeper, with Botka moving into defence alongside Panzo, Mumba and Gibson. Gibson developing very nicely in that centre-back spot. We've had to fight some interest from him to keep him at the club, and Bally Mumba has gone from being our best left winger to being our best left back, and I am trying to train him as a full-back option, where I think he could be very good on the attacking duty. Poulsen is still in our best midfield too, alongside Adam Randall, who's a player that's been at Plymouth for a number of years, coming out the academy. We then see Morgan Whittaker and Callum Wright alongside Ronald, with Mateo Joseph up front. Again, we'll be relying on Whittaker to do most of the job for us in terms of keeping us up. He is definitely a quality player, and I'd go as far as saying is mid-table Premier League quality. He is that good, and we are very lucky to have him. And clearly the game thinks our transfer business has been at least decent, because now, instead of being predicted relegation, we're predicted just outside of it. 21st place prediction, with Millwall, Rotherham and Stockport County all expected to go down. We're expected to stay up. The teams coming down into the Championship this year were Forest, Leicester and Southampton. Of course, Forest, way different to how they're doing in real life. But again, we're not really aiming for much more this season than trying to stay up. So let's not worry about those teams at the top. For now, let's survive for another season, build the finances up, build the facilities, and try and make Plymouth a club that could actually compete in the Premier League. Now, in these rebuilds here on the channel, we've had some dramatic seasons, some unexpected seasons, what we've done worse than we thought, better than what we thought, whatever it might be. But I think this might top the lot, because our Plymouth team were absolutely flying this year and getting some amazing results, like when we beat Sheffield United 3-0 away. But that wasn't the only goal fest. We managed to beat Sunderland 5-0 at our own stadium, and we also managed to stick 4 past Blackburn as well in a brilliant win. So as you can probably tell by the little smile on my face and the way I'm talking, we had an incredible season, and I promise you this is in no way rigged or anything like that, but somehow we have managed to secure promotion to the Premier League with a second place finish, 95 points, only 1 point away from eventual winners Leeds. We had the best goal difference in the league, and if you think that, I've somehow done something here to make us do really well, I think it really was just a season of shocks, because if you have a look, Derby and Oxford United were both predicted to go in the relegation battle for this coming season, yet they've all stayed up and done very well, getting playoff spots between them. Surprisingly, teams like Leicester have fallen all the way down to 10th place. I know the Championship can sometimes throw up some very odd seasons, but this has got to be some of the weirdest of the lot. Leeds are going up, as are Norwich and Plymouth, and of all things, it was a Leeds loanee who made us get there. Mateo Joseph was unbelievable for us, 26 goals in the league alone, 5 assists, and he's one of many great performers we had. As you can see, Morgan Whittaker was also exceptional this year. He got 21 goals and 15 assists. We did not change the tactics, we didn't do anything like that, we just had an unbelievable season. If you have a look, we saw plenty more goals from Whittaker this year. Joseph scored a load, but we had Ronald chipping in with 11, Gibson with 5, Mumba with 6. The team just really came together this season and did a great job. Even Mark Guiu on loan managed to score 4 goals for us, nothing amazing, but it helped get us over the line. Callum Wright with 7. We had so many contributors in what was just an unbelievable season. As you can see, it already started off very well with plenty of wins in the bag. I mean, we beat Leicester 3-0 in our first game, Stockport 4-0, Cardiff 6-1, and the results just kept coming. We actually faltered a little bit later as the season went by, and had we not had a bad December, I assume we would have won the title pretty comfortably, but I do not care at all. We are heading to the Premier League with Plymouth, and because of that, we have got a bunch of money coming in. £33 million to spend, 300 grand a wage budget, and if you have a look at the club as well, I have been improving the facilities. There are upgrades coming to the stadium as well, and I'm hoping this will mean Plymouth have a bright future. But we're way ahead of schedule. We head into our 3rd season out of 5, and we're in the Prem, and we have Prem money to spend. So you know what that means? Plenty of transfers on their way. And with our Plymouth team now being in the Premier League, we went for it in the transfer window. Plenty of incomings and also a lot of outgoings too. Many of our Championship players wanting new Premier League bumper deals. And we had to make our mind up if these guys were actually worth keeping around or not, and it led to a massive overhaul with our squad. The first outgoing to note is Caleb Roberts, who goes out on loan to Blackpool for the season. He continues his growth, having played in the National League, League 2, and now the Championship, where hopefully he'll continue to get better. Long-term servant and Icelandic international Victor Paulsen has also left the club after 2 years of great service. He goes to play for Eupen in Belgium. Lebanese attacking midfielder Rami Al-Haj has been at the club for a few years now. Didn't play much though in the Championship, and for that reason he's not going to be good enough for the Prem, so we've sold him on to Parma for 500k. Andre Botko is one of those who had a year left on his deal and was now wanting a new bumper contract, but I didn't quite think I wanted to commit to him as our first choice defender, so we've sold him on to Parma as well for 650,000 after a good year for us. Tibor Halilovic also serves a year, wanted a new deal, and off he goes. He goes to play for Hertha Berlin for 2.4 million. After 26 games for his last year, 7 as a starter, he did exactly what we needed him to do on that free deal. But the biggest sale we made was Freddie Isaka. The now 20-year-old Welsh under-21 international is a player that I had big hopes for at the start of his save, and he has done well in his development, doing well enough at Rochdale to earn himself a place in our squad last year. But in came Burnley for an £8 million transfer fee, rising to potentially 11.5 million. And if he wasn't good enough to play in the Championship, he's not going to be good enough to play now. It's not like he's 17, he's 20. So I thought it was best to move on. We take the money and we reinvest. And then we get on to our many incomings, all of which I think give us a much better squad for the Premier League. Arguably still not good enough to stay up, but we have made a ton of signings. Keiki, or Kaiki, I don't know how you pronounce it, is the first one. The 23-year-old Brazilian signing from Man City on a free, having been let go from his contract after a year in the Eredivisie. Moroccan 32-year-old Anna Messina also joins the club, an experienced international who can play left-back or centre-back, joining from Torino, having previously played for Bologna, Watford and Udinese. Absolutely nothing. I think this is a good deal. Kane Kessler-Hayden is a great option to have at both left-back and right-back. We've picked him up on a free. Our scouts found him having been let go by Aston Villa. Is he going to set the world alight? No, but he is good cover. One signing I think is a very good one though is picking up Thomas Handel on a free. He's a Portuguese 25-year-old, former under-21 international. To be honest, I would have paid a few million for him, so to get him for free I think is great business. Our depth up front also strengthens with Patson Daka. Of course, Mateo Joseph and Mark Guiu were no longer at the club, so we needed a new forward line. Daka is going to be our backup to a player that I'll show you later, having signed on free from Leicester. And then there's Kevin Mbabu, the Swiss right-back, formerly of Newcastle, also of Fulham in the Premier League, but mainly people know him from his Wolfsburg days. He had some great cards in FIFA. We've signed him for a free deal after he left Midtjylland out in Denmark, and I think he's going to be great for the next couple of years. Former Chelsea and QPR man Jake Clark-Salter joins us, age 28, to be our fourth choice centre-back really, on a free deal. And then there's Vaclav Halakki, whose name I've definitely butchered, but he's a Czech 35-year-old goalie who comes in to be our new backup from Burnley. He's played for Ipswich previously, and our two goalkeepers that we had last season have both left at the end of their contract, so he's in to be our backup, and you'll see our number one in a sec. But first, our new left winger, and the first player we actually played a fee for, it's James Scott, who might not be a starter, but he's great cover up front and on the wing. A 25-year-old formerly of Hull City. We signed him from St Mirren for only 500k, rising to 700. Our new number one though is going to be Leicester goalkeeper in real life currently, Jakub Stolazic. He's playing right now with Mads Hermansen out injured. In this world, he is a Polish international. He's 25 years of age, and we have signed him for 1.5 million from the Foxes, and I think that's a great deal for what we're getting here. Arguably the best deal we made though was signing youngster Ben Sidardai, one of the best young attacking midfielders in the world in this save, age 20, from Wolfsburg for 2 million quid, and I think he's going to have a very big future for us. But we continued our German shopping with the signing of Florian Flick, a 26-year-old German midfielder who can play in the base of that midfield, signing from Nuremberg in the Bundesliga 2 for 3 million. Our scouts found him after 2 good seasons in that lower division. But our biggest signing, still not crazy expensive, is our new star striker, former Chelsea and Spurs man Jude Soonsup-Bell. He's a Thai international at age 22, but previously was at England youth level, came to Chelsea, went to Tottenham, and eventually he moved on to play for Cordoba in the second tier of Spain, where he did unbelievably well, particularly last season. 25 goals, 10 assists for a team that ended up getting promoted, and we have now picked him up for a release clause fee of 5 million, and what a player he could be if these star ratings are accurate. And our team, I think, looks much improved from what we initially inherited. The only person in the defence that continues from our first year is Gibson, who is now surrounded by Panzo and Babu Stolazic and Massina. Flick and Handel make up a new midfield too, alongside that forward line that continues from last year of Whittaker, Wright, Ronald, and then a new striker in Soonsup-Bell. Now, if I'm being totally honest, I don't even think this team is good enough to get promoted from the Championship. They proved me wrong last season, but even with these additions, I still don't think we're good enough. Never mind surviving the Prem. The board just want us to fight bravely against relegation. They don't even want us to avoid it. They just want us to give it a go, basically. And you can see the game thinks that's about as good as we can do, with 1,000 to 1 odds of winning the title. Predicted rock bottom, Norwich, Ipswich fairly close to us, but Leeds and Burnley, Bournemouth, Fulham, all considered much better than we are right now. So it is going to be a relegation fight. We're going to do all we can to try and stay up and then start to maybe cement ourselves as a Premier League club. But we're just happy to be here. Plymouth are in the Prem. Now this season we went into it fully expecting to be in a relegation fight, and if we were anywhere outside the relegation zone I would have considered it a success, but my team, this Plymouth side, went far beyond any expectation I or anybody had of them this year. And we secured some fantastic results along the way, like beating Liverpool 3-1 at Anfield, but arguably my favourite match of the season was when Manchester United came to town and Patson Daka scored 1. Before I knew it, Daka had 2, and by the end of the game Patson Daka was able to secure a hat-trick in what was a 5-3 win. So as you can tell, we had some great results. On top of that, in the Carabao Cup, we ended up making it to a semi-final, beat Chelsea 3-0 in the home leg, only to get battered at Stamford Bridge and get knocked out of the Cup. But we had a season of such a good nature, past any expectation anyone had of us, and we got an insanely good finish in the Prem, 8th place, Conference League football, Plymouth in Europe, 16 wins, 14 losses, 56 points. We were good for it, way clear of relegation, an unbelievable season. Now, I promise you, you've seen it. I'm not using any kind of crazy tactic. It's a basic tactic the game provides. I've made no real changes to it other than a few role tweaks. No additional instructions, no team instructions different. It's just working. I mean, on top of that, I've not got a special corner tactic. We haven't got loads of amazing players. Something is going right here at Plymouth. I don't know what's in the waters, but all these players are juiced up. And I mean, European football is crazy. Now, granted, the Prem this year was a bit of a weird situation where Chelsea won it with only 79 points, which you'd never really see happen. Lots of teams not at their best, losing a lot of games, but I mean, it's crazy that we're doing so well. We are in the Conference League with Plymouth. And if you've watched these rebuilds before, you'll know it doesn't usually go this easy. I thought with Plymouth in our 5th year, this might be the best of where we could get, but who knows now where our ceiling is. We had a fantastic season. Ben Sidade, I asked to play as many times as possible, and he did a great job of it. But what's great to see are our 2 best players this year were Bally Mumba and Morgan Whittaker. 2 players we had initially in that team that is threatened by relegation in real life at Plymouth. Now, Louis Barry and Kaiki were considered better, but they were only bench appearances from those guys. We saw Jude Soonsup-Bell score 15 Prem goals, really showing Chelsea and Spurs what they were missing with him. 8 goals from Dade, as mentioned. Lots of players contributing. I mean, Daka scored 3 of them against Manchester United. He saved them all for the big day. But I couldn't be happier with how this team is doing right now. And we head into our 4th season, still 2 years to go, with £53 million in the transfer budget. Plenty of wage budget as well. As you can see, the facilities, we are improving. I want this Plymouth team to be a side that can stay up in the Prem, that can be sustainable. And you'll even see we are currently playing in Bristol City Stadium, Ashton Gate, because we're waiting for our stadium to get better. We've asked for some improvements on it. So whilst that's being built, we're playing out in Bristol. But yeah, I mean, what a rebuild this has been so far. We're only 3 years in, and who knows what's yet to come. But we've got plenty of money, and that's of course going to mean plenty of signings. And in Season 4, we went for it in the transfer market. I think we've signed some absolute gems to improve our team, and I can't wait for you guys to see them. But first, we've got the departures. But if you are enjoying the video up to this point, this is the last time I'll ask, please do smash that like button. If you've watched this much of it, I think hopefully I've earned it. So if you could press it, forget you've ever done it. It helps me, and it is a massive support. So thank you guys, but let's now go and check out our transfers in our 4th year. Louis Barry was first out the door. The Irish 24-year-old has gone to play for Rotherham in the Championship. Actually, League One they're in now, signing for 875k, £1 million is what it could potentially rise to. He served as well, but he isn't great. One of our left-back options, Saxon Airley, has left the club age 24 to sign for Girona out in Spain. Not bad for him, a little Spanish holiday for 500k. Kevin Mbabu served us for 1 season. He also moves away to Girona, signing for £500,000 too, so we made £1 million off those fullbacks. The Brazilian winger Kaiki, believe it or not, wasn't settling in Plymouth. In fact, he did say he was finding it hard to settle in the area, so now he's moved back to Brazil, to Grêmio for £300,000. I imagine it's a little bit warmer over there. Jake Clark-Salter, another one that came in for a free last year, served us for a season and now moves on, freeing up the wage bill, making a bit of money as he goes to Cadiz. Adam Messina also leaves after 1 year at the club. He goes to sign for Lecce out in Italy for £11,000, having been a good servant for us for that 1 year. And James Scott too, a good player, but we've now got a better player in his stead, so he moves on to go to Hibernian for the season, where just from this loan we already make more than what we initially paid for him. When it comes to incomings though, I think we've done a great job. We've got a new right back option in the form of Calvin Ramsey. The 23-year-old Scotsman joins having left his contract at Liverpool. He's been good in League One and the Championship for a variety of clubs, so now it's time to take the step up into the Premier League. Anthony Roulard also signs on a free. He's a French centre-back who joins from Stuttgart, where he's been doing well in the Bundesliga, playing regular Bundesliga football, so to get him as a free agent I think is a real coup for our side. As is Bernat Torrientes, a 25-year-old Spanish midfielder who we pick up from Sociedad, having been let go, again playing for one of the best clubs in Spain at a good level regularly, and we have signed him for Plymouth Argyle on a free contract. Granted, it's a big contract for us, but I think he's worth it. We then increased our centre-back options with the signing of 27-year-old Northern Irish international Daniel Ballard, joining for £1.4 million from Brighton. The former Arsenal, Millwall, Sunderland, Bournemouth and Wolves man has has been doing well in his career, particularly last season in the Championship. Our scouts are impressed, and I think 1.4 mil is nothing for this caliber. We found a real gem in our left winger, probably our best signing so far when it comes to value for money. He's worth nearly 30 million quid, and we picked him up for 3 million from Elche in La Liga. In the second tier, he was great. In La Liga, the top division of Spain, he was unreal. Loads of clubs were sniffing after him, but we got him for a release clause fee of 3.3 million, and he is our new star left winger. And speaking of stars in new positions, Calvin Ramsey is in at right back, but he'll have to compete with Juan David Mosquera, who's a 24-year-old American/Colombian player who is a great option at right back. We've picked him up from Portland Timbers in the MLS for 5.5 million after 4 unbelievable seasons for them so far. And then there's our new goalkeeper, Gabriel Slonina, who comes in to compete with Slazic. He signs for us from Chelsea for 9.25 million, nearly 10 mil for the man that spent last season at Wolves. Did a good job for them, only conceded about 1 goal a game, and he is clearly expected to have a big career. So hopefully, being at Plymouth now, he'll play regular football and develop really well. And only now really am I looking at this team and thinking, you know what? I actually think this is a half-decent side, because when you see the players we've got, I do think we are quite strong now when it comes to starters. Slonina in goal, Mosquera, Ballard, Gibson and Ballymumba is our defence. Great to see. I mean, Gibson, Ballymumba, 2 players that are at Plymouth in real life currently, valued at about £30 million a pop now. Mumba has been such a great servant in any position that he plays in. Handel and Torrientes is our best midfield too, alongside a new forward line of Mella, Darday and Whittaker. Whittaker continuing to go strong, our star player, and surely going to be one of Plymouth's biggest legends. Junsun Sutbell continues his performance as our main striker this year, and as we go into our new season, we're still expected to fight bravely against relegation. Still, they do not think we're going to stay up, and the game still thinks we're a relegation threatened team, predicted 18th, but granted, Leicester, Southampton, Leeds, Ipswich, Hull, all considered very close to us. In fact, we're considered far better than Hull and Ipswich, which obviously bodes a little bit better for us this year. If we secured European football last time, who knows what we can do, but we'll be playing Conference League football as well. Sounds crazy to say. Plymouth are in Europe, we're going to give it a go, who knows what will happen, but my main aim is to stay up this season in the Prem. And in 4 years here at Plymouth, I feel like we've had crazy event after crazy event after crazy event, and this season, I think just tops a lot. In the league, if I'm being honest, it was not as good of a year as last season, even with the signings we've made, but we did get some great results, like beating Man City 4-3. But of course, this year, we were in the Conference League, and being an English club in the competition, I was expecting to do pretty well, to be honest with you. I was hoping to at least make the knockouts, and we did exactly that. In fact, having knocked out Nice in the quarter-final, we arguably had an easier match in the semi, facing off against Scottish side Aberdeen, where Whittaker scored, and we needed to do exactly that because we did lose 2-0 in the home leg in Scotland, but as they came over to Plymouth, we quickly made it 2-2, and it was Whittaker again who allowed us to get the lead and get us a place in the final. And being the Conference League, it's not exactly like we had to face off against Real Madrid or Inter Milan or anyone like that. Our final in the Conference League was against Torino. Now granted, this would not be an easy game, but we were probably going into it as favourites for the competition, and that's Plymouth in a European final, remember, and soon Sutbell got us off to a flyer, and it wasn't long before we were able to make it 2-0 in the 36th minute. Jonathan Panzo into David Mella for the second goal. Torino, though, are a European placing team in Serie A, and they certainly have talent, and just before the half-time mark, they showed that, making it 2-1, and they kept pushing and pushing for a second goal, and as the game went on, it looked like they might get it. That was until Morgan Whittaker, our player that's been here since the start, hit a brilliant shot, scored, and he won us the Conference League. In our 4th year at Plymouth, we've actually just won a European trophy. It's insane to say. Yes, it's only the Conference League, but I do not think any Plymouth fan will be bothered about that. Remember, not long ago, Plymouth was the biggest city in the UK to never have a team in the top flight of English football, but here they are now, regulars in the Premier League, staying up in 10th position this season, 50 points, not as good as year 1, but we had to contend with European football this year too, remember. And we've won the Conference League, which means this year we'll be playing in the Europa League. It is insane to say. Plymouth are flying in this save, and we've got some great players to thank for it. But once again, if you have a look at who is doing this, It's the players that we've had since the start. Lewis Gibson is one of our best with 5 goals from centre-back. Jonathan Panzo, we signed in the first year as a free agent. He's one of our best. Morgan Whittaker, of course, is the main man with 25 goals, 11 from Bensi Dade. Bali Mumba still doing really well for us, even though you look at him and you don't think he's a Premier League quality player. Ronald scoring 13. When we signed him, I did not expect that of him. 19 from Soon Suk Bell. David Mellor scoring 12 in his first year. Cannot ask for any more than this. You can now see we are at Home Park, back at the Plymouth Stadium, and the capacity is massively increased from what we initially had, near enough 10,000 more seats. The facilities have got better, the reputation has got better, and financially there is £100 million in the balance, nothing in the debts and loans, and £73 million of transfer budget as we head into our final window. So I'm going to try and sign some stars and hopefully, I don't know, make Plymouth a Champions League team? And this really has been our biggest window yet. We saved the best till last, near enough £40 million of transfer business spent here at Plymouth Argyle, and I think we've got some unbelievable players to add to our team in Season 5. Firstly though, the outgoings. Adam Randall, here from the start, a Plymouth Academy player, has gone out on loan to Frosinone for the season. Thomas Handel has left the club for a very small fee actually. I don't know how he got so little, but I figured he wasn't going to play anymore, so I didn't want him to kick up a fuss. He's gone to Damat for 145k. I don't know if he's glitched, but when we signed him, he wasn't a free agent. He was just available for £0 transfer business. And then we played him for 2 years in the Prem. He's done really well, and his transfer valuation was about 100k, which was weird. Now Damak have bought him, and his transfer valuation is 900k, which obviously he is worth far more than that. So I don't really understand it, but he's gone. Will Jenkins-Davies never quite made it for us, so the 23-year-old is now signed for Sampdoria for £300,000. James Scott signs permanently for Girona, who've had a few of our players now. He signs for £600,000 to play in La Liga. Patson Daka also leaves on a permanent, as we've now got a new striker to compete with Soon Suk Bell. He signs for Bologna for 1.8 million, earning himself a nice move. Callum Wright has been here from the start, but he is now left, no longer really being good enough. The former Leicester man did numbers for us in his years here, but now has gone to play for Augsburg in the Bundesliga for 2 million. But now we get on to the incomings, and if you're someone that continues to save over on Patreon after this Season 5, you are going to have some wonder kids to work with that I think have the chance of turning this Plymouth team into real title contenders. Marco Schuster is the first signing I made, an 18-year-old left back with huge potential for £2 million from Werder Bremen. One that I'm really excited about is this new striker who arguably could be good if not better than Soon Suk Bell, Maxim Stepanenko, who's a Norwegian 18-year-old valued at 40 million with amazing attributes that we have signed from Mulder for 2.9 mil on a release clause fee. This is a player who is 6'3", quick, strong and tall. He is really going to suit the match engine. I then picked up Amad Diallo for only about 3 million quid just for some extra depth on that wing, seeing as Kaiki's left. Hasn't really done much for Manchester United, but you know what? It's Amad Diallo. Pablo Torre switches the new camp for Home Park, moving from Barcelona to Plymouth Argyle, which I don't think is a transfer you'll get very regularly. £5 million for the man that hasn't really played for them, but clearly is a very big talent. Federico Redondo was also signed for the club, the 25-year-old Argentinian signing from Inter Miami, where he has been exceptional. 5 million quid, again, release clause fee for a good midfielder. But our biggest signing is our new central midfielder, Jonas Dreen, who is expected to be one of the best players in the world, a wonder kid, 19 years of age, Belgian international appearances, coming in from Standard Liège. £18 million was the fee for him. He has got an afro that's so big it doesn't even fit this picture section. Great with the ball at his feet, good defensively, amazing first touch, a technical whiz, and probably the best player to ever wear a Plymouth shirt. If we now look at our best 11, this is what we're seeing. It's Slanina in goal with Ramsey, Rular, Gibson and Panzo at the back. Nice to see a few of these players have been here for a number of years now. Flick, Torrientes, Whittaker, Torre, Mellor and Soon Suk Bell. Clearly, we've got some of these transfers right, because a lot of these guys joined in our first couple of years, so to still see them doing well is great. I mean, Morgan Whittaker, a £60 million player now in this Plymouth team. Some great players on the bench and in the reserves, even Ben Dade. Haven't spoke about him for a couple of years, but still a very, very good option. If we now have a look at the season preview, they expect us to avoid relegation, and the game thinks we're going to finish in 13th. That's the best we've seen for a long time. 250 to 1 odds of winning the title. It's great to actually be considered a side that can stay up, but if we were predicted 20th and managed to finish in 8th, when we predicted 13th, if my calculations are right, we could be in a title battle. And in our 5th and final year with Plymouth, I think we can be very happy with where we've taken this club. This year, of course, we were competing in the Europa League, and we did well enough in the league phase to auto-qualify for the round of 16, where we were facing off against Fiorentina, who went 1-0 up, and they finished their home tie by making it too late on. So in the home leg at Home Park, we had a point to prove, and just at the end of the first half, David Mellor danced into the area, and Dreen hit a curler to make it 2-1. Fiorentina, though, weren't just lying down and letting us get back in the game. Before we knew it, Dodo into Beltran, 3-1 to the Italians. And as the minutes ticked away, 70 minutes on the clock, we looked down and out until Whittaker found Stepanenko for 3-2, and not long after that, Bensadade into Whittaker, here from season 1, makes it 3-3. But unfortunately, it was heartbreak late on. With no minutes really left of the game, Fiorentina scored, they were winning. At least they were until injury time, 92nd minute, Federico Redondo with a brilliant shot to take us to extra time and penalties. And it went to sudden death when Jude Soon-Suk-Bell stepped up and missed his shot, and it was then on Fiorentina to win it. They stepped up, and they did. So it was a good effort. We nearly made it to a quarter-final of a Europa League with Plymouth Argyle in only 5 years. We'd added a Conference League to their cabinet, and on top of that, we had another great league finish. Because Plymouth Argyle have finished in 7th place, qualifying for the Europa League again. They'll have another go at it next season, so anyone who is playing this save over on Patreon, you've got European football to carry on with. You need to take them to even further glory. In fact, we were only a few points away from Champions League place Brighton. In the end, Man City won it with 84 points, but it was our best points total yet, doing very well, and Pablo Torre seemed to be the signing of the rebuild really. 22 goals in his first year from attacking midfield, 4 assists as well, 10 player of the match awards. What a year it was for him for only 5 million quid. And if we have a look now at the best performances, there's one player that's done better than Torre. It's Morgan Whittaker, 23 goals. The man who's been here from season 1, now wanted by Al Hilal. He's going to earn himself a mega deal if he was to leave. What a player he's been, a star and surely a legend of the club. Bensadade was back at it. Panzo still going strong. Soon-Suk-Bell as well. 10 from Stepanenko, who has improved a lot and looks like he's going to be an unbelievable player. Jonas Dreen as well, the young Belgian 19-year-old, doing so well, developing so nicely. And now, I mean, look at that. We've got maximum facilities when it comes to academy coaching and youth recruitment, developing the training in youth facilities still. We've got the reputation up to a good level. The finances are great. In the dev centre, our under-18 squad is stacked with young talent. If we have a look, none of our players have made the legends list, even though Morgan Whittaker is now an icon. He's not done enough apparently to be a legend, which I think is wrong, but this has definitely been one of my favourite rebuilds yet. Plymouth are the biggest city not to have a club in the Premier League, and we have made it happen. What a rebuild it's been. If you have enjoyed, smash the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.